We're looking at a group photograph that was taken in the summer of 1978 outside the then Gay News offices in Norman Gardens, Greyhound Road, West Kensington. This is me. That's Keith Howes. I was the features editor, and I'm looking rather sweetly and fondly at Sandy Rose, who was our classified ads secretary. In other words, people that wanted to meet other people would send their ads to Sandy Rose, and she would take the money and put them in the newspaper. Next to me is Alan. He was our van driver. That was a very important part of Gay News because the newspapers had to be delivered not only to newspaper shops but also to pubs and clubs in London. Here we have Bob Workman himself. He was the man that took the photograph. He was both our photographer and he also helped in the art room. This is Richard Wildung. Richard was the assistant to the news editor. We never worked out quite whether Richard was gay or not. He was very, very quiet. He never disclosed. And of course, we never bothered to ask people if they were gay or not. But the whole thing was, are you in favour of gay liberation? That was the only criteria that we used. This is Nancy Lamont. She was our advertising manager. Advertising was crucial to the paper's success, and as we grew, of course, the advertising grew as well, not only from gay clubs and pubs and hotels, but also from record companies, theatres, film companies, etc., etc. Here's Maggie Donovan. She was one of the longest serving members of the staff. She was the subscriptions manager. Subscriptions are very important to Gay News. Why? Because a lot of people could not go into a newsagent's or even a pub or a club because they did not want people to know they were homosexual. So subscriptions meant that you would get your copy every fortnight in a brown paper envelope. It was all very discreet. So Maggie was absolutely crucial. And this little creature is Daisy, Maggie's Yorkshire Terrier, and her registered name was Gay News. So she was Gay News's, in quotes, guard dog, end quotes. Here's Peter Cowell, smiling. He didn't often smile. He was a very serious young man. He was our accountant. In other words, he paid our wages and paid all the other bills, so he was crucial too. Everyone was crucial, of course, no more so than Victor Norton. Victor Norton was an American who was our typesetter, so he was responsible. In those days, of course, we didn't have journalists actually typing their own copy. He had to take our copy and put it onto the offset machine, which would then go down to the art room to be pasted in. And his assistant was this young woman here, Leslie Jones, who changed her name to Bo, B-O. I think she's changed it back to Leslie now. Here is Alyson Hannigan. Alyson Hannigan was not only our literary editor, but also the assistant features editor, so she worked very closely with me. Here is Jean-claude Tavener. He had been with the newspaper from the very, very first issue in 1972. He was from France, and he was the art director. So he was responsible for the look of the paper, and with Glenn Platts, who is here, they actually laid down all the typesetting that Victor Norton produced. Next to him is Jeff Grace. Jeff Grace was our, what would you say, our Jeff of all trades. He started out working with the news department, and then he went on to being classified ads, the van driver, the handyman, everything. Jeff was remarkable, such a practical soul and very, very wicked. Next to him is the great cheese himself, Dennis Lemon, who was the editor, and boy, was he the editor. He was firmly in charge, and he made sure that we worked very, very, very hard. That was Dennis, but last but not least, we have Michael Mason. Michael was the news editor, not the editor, but the news editor. And Michael was really responsible for making Gay News not just a magazine with bits of news in it, but a gay newspaper. And part of that skill lay in his excellent editorials, unsigned, that came into the paper every single fortnight. And they dealt with subjects such as the Pope and the Catholic Church, the Press Council, the abuse of gays in Argentina, as well as Amnesty International's refusal to adopt gays as prisoners of conscience. And this was the team that made up a newspaper called Gay News. And of those 16 people, 6 are no longer with us.